Have you ever wondered if what destroys you the most is actually what is trying to save you? What if your quietest pain were the only language God found to call you by name? How many more times must you fall before realizing that the abyss may actually be a disguised doorway? Carl Jung, in his almost heretical audacity, dared to say the unspeakable. Every vice is an unconscious attempt to return to God. That statement is not a metaphor, it is a revelation. Jung did not see vice as a moral failure but as a spiritual search, a hunger for meaning, dressed in compulsion. Nietzsche whispered that man is a rope stretched between the animal and the bird. And where is that rope stretched the most? In vice, because there, in uncontrollable desire, exists a force beyond mere want, something sacred, yet forgotten. How many people do you know who can live an ordinary life? They work, sleep, distract themselves, and that is enough. But you feel a restlessness that never ceases, a thirst that no achievement quenches. You have tried to stop, you have made promises, you have knelt and cried in silence, only to fall again. But what if that fall is actually a rite? What if, as Jung said, you are being initiated, not destroyed? This video is a journey, an intimate conversation between you and the presence that insists on hiding behind pain. You are not here by accident, and perhaps deep down, you always knew it. Prepare to hear what no one ever dared to tell you, because perhaps, just perhaps, God is speaking through your vice, and only the chosen can hear that whisper amidst chaos. If what destroys you at its core were the way God found to reach you, Carl Jung believed that vice is not merely human weakness but a spiritual language, a divine attempt to break the silence in chosen souls, using their own excesses as messengers. It seems crazy, doesn't it? Yet, think about it. How many times have you found yourself at the brink of collapse, dominated by a desire you despise? How often have you promised to be different, only to fall into the same abyss again? Perhaps it is not merely failure but a ritual, a necessary deconstruction so that something within you may be revealed. Jung saw vice as a symbol, a secret code. It was not alcohol, cigarettes, sex, or control in themselves. It was what those things tried to fill. A profound absence, an existential void, a spiritual hunger. Most people can live without diving into that abyss. They experience pleasures, maintain routines, and that suffices. But some cannot. Some feel a thirst nothing satisfies, a restlessness that prevents them from settling, a void no achievement fills. These, Jung said, are the chosen ones, those marked by acute sensitivity, carrying a pain that has purpose, though still incomprehensible. When you try to anesthetize that pain, when you seek immediate relief through vice, you are not merely fleeing, you are trying to touch something sacred, something lost or perhaps never possessed. It is as if behind every relapse there is a voice whispering, you are close, though not yet there. That moment after falling, when everything seems to collapse, and you look at yourself with disdain, that is the starting point. In that devastating silence, where no masks remain, the true calling can finally be heard. God does not speak loudly. He whispers, often choosing to whisper through chaos. You are not being punished, you are being summoned. Vice is the envelope in which that summons was delivered. Opening it hurts, confuses, seems destructive. But it may be the beginning of reconstructing something that has always been dormant within you. When Jung stated that vice is an unconscious search for God, he meant that there is something deeply spiritual in that collapse, not in the self-destructive behavior itself, but in the hunger that drives it. Vice is a desperate attempt at transcendence, and only those with that deep thirst, that unbearable absence, can comprehend the call hidden within compulsion. This is not about romanticizing pain or justifying suffering. It is about honestly observing what vice is trying to reveal, because perhaps, just perhaps, it is not trying to destroy you, it is trying to awaken you. There is a thirst that does not begin in the throat, it is a thirst that rises from the soul. And the most frustrating thing is that no matter how much you drink, consume or conquer, it is never quenched. You can move cities, change partners, change jobs. You can fill your days with distractions, promises, and attempts. But at night, when everything falls silent, it returns stronger, hungrier. Carl Jung called this spiritual hunger. For him, all forms of addiction are attempts to kill that hunger with the wrong nourishment. You drink thinking you seek pleasure, but in reality you are trying to feel connection. You drown yourself in sex, in control, in performance, but what you desire is presence, belonging, meaning. You want to touch the sacred, but no one taught you how. We live in a world that ignores the solar world, treated with pills, formulas, and haste, but some pain is not biological, it is existential. And what you feel is not weakness, it is spiritual sensitivity. Your pain is the echo of something greater, something that wants to be heard but which you persist in silencing with substances, distractions, or denial. Have you ever wondered why some people can enjoy pleasure without becoming enslaved by it? Why they can drink socially or live without sinking into destructive behavior? And why can't you? Jung would say it is because your thirst runs deeper. Because your soul is screaming for something the superficial world can never provide. The problem is that when you try to silence that scream with worldly things, it only grows louder. Relief comes, but it is temporary. The euphoria fades, and all that remains is an even greater emptiness. It is like drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. That thirst is sacred, but until you recognize its nature, it will drag you deeper. Because in this context, addiction is not the source of pain, it is the consequence of ignoring it. Addiction is the symptom, the root lies in the soul, in what has been lost, forgotten, or denied within you. Jung saw alcoholics, for instance, as frustrated spiritual seekers, people craving a transcendent experience but not knowing where to find it. They surrendered to drink because, for fleeting moments, it gave the illusion of transcendence, a warmth that felt divine, a fleeting release that seemed liberation. But it was a simulacrum, a shadow of what the soul truly yearned for. You don't want another drink, you want peace. You don't want another body, you want love. You don't want another stimulation, you want meaning. But it is easier to give in to immediate desire than to dive into the depth of what it hides. Perhaps you think all of this is weakness, but what if it is exactly the opposite? What if your inability to settle for less is proof that you were made for more, for a life that is authentic, deep, connected? And if that chronic dissatisfaction is the coal trying to pull you out of the superficial, you feel that thirst because you are alive, because in some way you have already realized that what the world offers is not enough. And that is not failure, it is vision, sensitivity, the beginning of a new way of being. But to reach it, you must stop fleeing, stop anesthetizing yourself, stop thinking that wanting more is a flaw, and begin listening to what that thirst is trying to tell you. Because this is not the end, it is the beginning. It is your soul asking to return home. Have you ever felt that something inside you spends your life hidden? A dark, shameful place made of impulses, fears, and memories you dare not confess, not even to yourself. Carl Jung called this the shadow. And if you feel shame just thinking about it, it is because yours is alive and hungry. The shadow is not evil, it is all you did not know how to love. All you buried for fear of rejection, punishment, or being forgotten. Your addiction, however destructive, is one of the most eloquent ways the shadow expresses itself. It screams what you whisper, reveals what you try to hide, and that is why it scares you so much. But the truth is brutal. What you do not face consumes you, and what you accept transforms you. Every time you fall into the cycle of compulsion, the fleeting pleasure followed by devastating guilt, you are being guided, even forcibly, into your interior. Relapse is not just a relapse, it is a reunion. The shadow is saying, look at me, but you evade, resist. Try to overcome with willpower, and it laughs because the shadow is not conquered, it is integrated. This is the hardest part of the path, because integrating the shadow requires the courage to look inward and say, yes, I am this too. I am weak, I am needy, I am desiring, I am everything I learned to deny. And that confession does not occur with words, it occurs in the depths of the abyss, when there is nowhere left to flee. Jung believed that true spiritual growth is not found in the light, but in the conscious journey through darkness. Addictions drag you there because they know that is where what you most need to find resides. You think you want to free yourself from addiction, but addiction is only the tip of the iceberg. What you really desire is to free yourself from the pain of being who you are, with all that it entails. But here lies the paradox. The harder you fight that pain, the more it hides. And the more it hides, the stronger addiction becomes. You drink, smoke, seek sex, sabotage yourself not because you want to, but because you can no longer endure pretending that everything is fine, and it is okay not to be okay. The shadow you carry is also the source of your authenticity. It contains the deepest traits of your humanity or gifts, your sensitivity, your intensity. All of it is intertwined with what you call your dark side, and only by integrating this darkness do you truly begin to become whole. Most people live on the surface, never going deep, never confronting their ghosts. You, however, were forced to do so because your shadow refuses to be ignored. And this is not a curse, it is an initiation. It is the process of breaking everything false within you to reveal what was always real. When you stop fighting what you feel, when you finally look inward without judgment, something changes. You begin to realize that the part of you that once scared you did not want to destroy you, it only wanted to be seen. It is in the darkness that the eyes adapt, and it is in the silence of the fall that the truth finally speaks. There is a pain within you that never fully disappears. It is there even when everything seems calm. It is an ancient wound, perhaps older than your conscious memories. You have tried everything to heal it: therapy, prayer, distraction, silence, but it always returns. Pulses, whispers, screams. At some point you may have started believing this meant something was wrong with you, but Carl Jung thought differently. For him, certain wounds are not meant to be healed in the traditional sense. They exist to be honored. He called it the sacred wound, the exact point where the soul breaks in order to expand. And what if your pain is precisely what makes you capable of healing others? What if your suffering is not an obstacle, but a path? Because only those who bleed know how to care for the wounds of others without judgment. Only those who know the fall understand the value of a silent embrace. Only those who have walked through the dark night of the soul can guide others in the darkness. That wound that insists on not closing humanizes you. It reminds you of what is real. It prevents you from living anesthetized, and that is precisely why it never fully disappears. It is part of your calling, part of your mission. Have you noticed that every time you try to escape the pain, addiction returns stronger, as if saying, "You have not understood yet. This is not punishment. It is divine insistence. It is God whispering, return inward, because within that pain lies a dormant power, not the power of brute force, but of compassion, clarity, presence." Your pain has taught you to listen beyond words, to perceive subtleties that no one else sees, to be sensitive to silence. This is not fragility, it's depth. But you need to stop hating yourself for feeling too much. Stop blaming yourself for not being like others. You were not made to live a superficial life. Some are called to the surface, others to the depths, and the depths hurt, but they also reveal treasures that can only be found there. Your wound is the map. Addiction was merely the alarm, and now that you have awakened, it is time to choose what to do with all of this. You can continue trying to fill that void with what the world offers: distractions, pleasure, control, and continue feeling the emptiness grow. Or you can finally sit in front of your pain, not as a victim, but as a learner, and ask, "What are you here to teach me?" Perhaps you will discover that that wound, which for so long was a source of shame, is precisely the place where light wants to enter. The exact point where your story connects with thousands still lost in darkness, searching for a thread of meaning. When that happens, when you accept your pain and transform it into a bridge, something changes. Suffering gains direction, the wound gains voice, and you become not only a survivor but someone who can guide. Because in the end, it is not about stopping the pain, it is about giving it purpose. You have come this far, and that is no small feat. Perhaps now you can see with new eyes what once only hurt you. Perhaps you notice that addiction was never only destruction, but revelation. The pain that tears you apart is also the force that shapes you, and falls, however humiliating they seem, are not detours, they are part of the path. Carl Jung taught us that what we most reject in ourselves can become our greatest source of wisdom. Addiction is often a sacred symbol, a forgotten language of the soul crying for God amid chaos. The unquenchable thirst, the wound that closes, the shadow that insists on returning. Perhaps now these no longer seem like punishment, but a call. And this call is not for the weak, it is for those who dare to dive, to fall, to bleed, and still continue searching. For those who refuse to live on the surface and accept the journey toward truth, even if it means the collapse of everything that seemed safe. It is marked not by condemnation but by the possibility of rebirth. It is no longer about escaping the pain, but about allowing it to transform you from the inside out. It is no longer about fighting the darkness, but about lighting a flame within it, a small, steady light that illuminates the corners of your soul you have long avoided. And it is no longer about trying to be someone different, but about remembering, truly remembering who you are at your core, stripped of masks, stripped of illusions, and stripped of all the false identities imposed by a world that fears depth. Addiction, suffering, shadow, the fall, all of it was a mirror reflecting a part of yourself you needed to see. And now that you have finally faced yourself, the journey home begins. Perhaps, just perhaps, it is not only a journey back to your true self, but a journey toward a life that is infinitely richer, infinitely more authentic, and infinitely more alive than you ever imagined possible. I cannot know exactly where you are in your life, nor the particular battles you face, but if you have reached the end of this video, if you have allowed yourself to truly listen to each word as one listens to something that resonates in the deepest chambers of memory and spirit, then from the very depths of my heart, I thank you not for watching, not for understanding, but for allowing yourself to feel, to confront, and to awaken. Because this video was never just about Carl Jung or philosophical reflection, it was about you, your inner journey, and the sacred struggle unfolding within you. I remember one night sitting alone in my kitchen, the dim light casting long shadows across the walls, the city outside, silent and sleeping, and there I was staring at a simple glass of water as if it contained the mysteries of the universe. I was not thirsty. I was trying to remember who I was before life taught me to hide, before the world demanded that I pretend, before the pain and longing became something I buried rather than embraced. And in that quiet moment, I realized that God does not always speak in thunder or grandiose displays. Sometimes, He whispers softly, subtly through the emptiness that dwells within us, through the longing that refuses to be silenced, through the shadow that refuses to be ignored. If you have ever felt this whisper, this faint but insistent call, then perhaps, just perhaps, you are one of the chosen. You do not need to comment. You do not need to justify. You do not need to explain anything to anyone. Just breathe, sit, feel, let the silence speak in its own language. And if any fragment of this video touched you, even for a fleeting moment, like an ancient whisper brushing your consciousness, then do what your soul asks. If you feel called to like, do so. If you feel called to comment, do so. And if you feel called to simply close your eyes and remain in the stillness, then surrender to that stillness. There is a sacredness in this pause, a reverence in silence. Because the world will never teach you how to honor the soul. It will never tell you that the hunger inside you, the thirst that cannot be quenched, is not a flaw, but a calling. It will never teach you that the shadows you fear are not your enemies, but guides. It will not show you that falling repeatedly is not failure, but part of awakening, a deliberate and necessary rhythm of your spiritual evolution. The world praises strength, glorifies perfection, rewards those who maintain the illusion of control but you. You were never meant for shallow praise or hollow victories. You were meant for depth. You were meant to feel fully, to break fully, to rise fully, to live fully. The pain, the shadows, the addictions, they are not your enemies. They are sacred teachers, guiding you towards self-realization, authenticity, and transcendence. The soul is learning to hear itself, and you are its apprentice. Every fall, every tear, every moment of despair, these were not punishments but lessons, each one intricately crafted to awaken your consciousness to dimensions of your being you have long neglected. Perhaps now you can see it. Every time you thought you were lost, every time you feared the abyss, every time the compulsion overtook you, you were walking a hidden path, a path that leads inward to the place where truth waits silently, patiently for your arrival. The abyss was never designed to destroy you. It was designed to initiate you. It was designed to break everything false within you so that what is real could shine brighter. And now, having walked through the fire of your own existence, you are different. You are awake. You are more present. You are aligned. You are alive in a way that those who fear depth will never understand. And the journey does not end here. It is only beginning in a new form, a higher vibration, a wider awareness. You can now choose to see the sacred within the struggle, the light within the shadow, the purpose within the pain. You can turn your suffering into a bridge for others, your wound into a compass, your thirst into a signal of what is eternal, what is true and what matters most. So breathe, sit with it, allow the silence to speak. You are not alone, and you have never been alone. Every step, every fall, every moment of longing has been pointing you toward this moment. Toward the realization that your life is not a collection of random events, but a sacred choreography of the soul. And if you ever doubt it, remember this. What has hurt you, tempted you, or seemed unbearable, it is not your enemy. It is the messenger. The soul speaks through extremes, through longing, through failure, through desire. And those who truly listen, those who truly feel, do not just hear the pain, they hear the path that always, inevitably, leads home. Thank you for allowing yourself to walk it, to feel it, to see it, to honor it. Thank you for seeing the shadow, the wound, the thirst, and understanding that it was never punishment, it was guidance. And now, you are ready to follow it, to integrate it, to live it not merely as a survivor, but as someone who is awakened, as someone who can guide, as someone who can illuminate the darkness for others. Welcome back to yourself. Welcome home. Welcome to the life that was waiting for you all along, the life you were always meant to live. You have been initiated. You have been called. You have been awakened. And now, the journey truly begins.